Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha, Manjushri, wisdom and courage. Homage to the greatly kind, the profound, subtle Dharma, rarely encountered in ages. You can see, uphold it. May I understand true meaning of Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will now continue on as we thoughtfully and carefully study the topic of the precious human rebirth in the preliminary practices of Dzogchen, taking a moment to reflect on its profound significance. The preliminary practices must be diligently practiced by everyone. Now, when thoughtfully discussing the remarkable rarity of human rebirth, especially in Buddhist philosophy, for example, everyone should, with full attention, repeatedly contemplate each guiding text. After reflecting, you should truly and wholeheartedly feel deep within your heart that having the precious and extraordinary opportunity to obtain a human body is indeed extremely rare, especially a human life that is able to practice the Dharma. To say that something is as rare as stars at dawn among the boundless sea of people means it is extremely scarce, almost impossible to find. Just as stars fade from view when the morning light arrives, so too does the chance of encountering such a rare thing diminish among countless individuals. This, you should think to yourself, at this very moment in time, right now, I have come across and personally encountered the precious Dharma, met such a teacher, and at the same time, I understand the principles of adopting and abandoning wholesome and unwholesome actions. If I don't practice now, right now, and truly, genuinely, absolutely die, for real, whether I fall into the lower realms or am reborn in other heavenly realms, there simply won't be an opportunity or even a real chance to practice like I have now, as it stands right now. Therefore, in our daily lives, we must often contemplate in this way. Throughout history, in the past, many great masters of the Nyingma, Kagyu, and Kadam traditions placed great importance on the practice of reflecting on the rarity of human rebirth. They've always consistently considered it to be a practice that requires ongoing dedication and commitment, viewing it as something meant to be sustained and developed over a long period of time. As a result, a significant number of highly experienced and knowledgeable practitioners who have, when they finally manifested parinirvana, they displayed various signs of accomplishment. Therefore, we truly and absolutely need the essential foundation of the preliminary practices right now, at this very moment. From the very beginning until now, I have consistently and repeatedly emphasized this to everyone. We may still need to keep repeating it as necessary from time to time, because after hearing it many times and being exposed to it repeatedly, perhaps it will leave a stronger and more lasting impression in your mind, making it easier to remember. Because when our revered guru was alive, he taught the preliminaries to everyone, basically every year. For this reason, as mentioned earlier, now among the guru's truly senior disciples, their certainty in the Dharma and their faith in the Dharma compared to the younger generation, some of whom have never even met the guru at all, and some, though they have met him, spent very little time by his side. There are such people in our institute. When you compare these people, you can tell during our usual interactions and conversations that in terms of truly deep and genuine faith in the Dharma, arising sincerely from the heart, I think there is a certain difference. The main reason for this is that when the elder was alive, he especially emphasized the foundation of the preliminary practices. Many Dharma teachers, practitioners here, and some lay people who are present here today, all gathered together in this place, put in a considerable amount of effort and dedicated time in this area. As a result, now they have truly, fully, completely, and absolutely, and without a doubt, gained a thorough and solid grasp of it. Of course, such practice, it is simply not possible for a thought, feeling, or idea to arise in our minds for absolutely no reason at all. There is always some cause. This is very difficult, especially for sentient beings in the degenerate age. Our actions of body, speech, and mind, in particular, as we know, one could say that from childhood until now, not to mention from beginningless time. From childhood until now, we have definitely committed countless negative actions. Our minds have been aligned with greed, anger, ignorance, and the 5 poisons of affliction. The corresponding time is too long. It is very difficult to change these old habits and tendencies all at once. It is truly very difficult to change because of this particular reason. Even if we occasionally reflect on some Buddhist teachings or receive blessings from our teachers or some Dharma instructions, it is very difficult and often quite challenging to immediately and completely break away from our usual patterns, even for a moment. Indeed, for ordinary people, changing our mindset happens step by step. It is not something that brings about instant results, as some might expect. Truly, there is no such thing as that, not at all, except for few individuals, such as those in the past from Tibetan Buddhism or Chan monasteries in China, as well as some great accomplished masters in India, because they had very deep and significant karmic connections to spiritual liberation and ultimate enlightenment from previous lives along their spiritual journey and path. As soon as they met a suitable teacher with a little guidance, they quickly realized their true nature and attained enlightenment. There are indeed such cases. In reality, situations like this do exist, and we do not deny that they exist. There truly are some people who, through their own diligent efforts, can gain insight or realization quickly. Such phenomena exist. But for most people, it is still necessary to put in their own effort. I hope that every Dharma friend, whether you are a layperson or a monastic, will definitely put effort into your practice, and this effort should be increased. In worldly terms, you need to intensify your efforts. You must practice with great diligence, focus, and unwavering vigor each and every day. You should increase the intensity, and the longer you are able to maintain or sustain it for as long as possible, the better. For example, if you are at an institute, whether formal Buddhist or not, the longer you stay in a formal Buddhist community, the better it is for your practice. Truly, without a doubt. Otherwise, if someone studies for just a year, a month, or a few days, is it really possible for your mind stream, the ongoing flow of your thoughts and awareness, to transform right now, in this very moment, without any delay or preparation at all? It is as difficult as reaching the sky, truly very hard. Therefore, now that we have the karmic connection to practice the preliminaries, personally, every time I'm about to teach the preliminaries, I feel happy in my heart. This Dharma is especially supreme because, moreover, regarding the teachings of the lineage masters, although our own practice may not be very good in this challenging, difficult, and degenerate age, we still have deep and unwavering faith in the Dharma. This is not just lip service. Speaking from the heart, throughout the first half of my life, whether it was my time or my energy, I have given everything I had to this. Every moment and every bit of effort I could muster has been devoted, leaving nothing behind in my dedication. So we ourselves are very confident, especially in our abilities as a team, as a group, through communication among Dharma friends. Perhaps even a very few people or individuals will, in their own time, come to understand such Dharma, because many people are indeed very interested in liberation and in seeking the true truth. They are truly full of enthusiasm. In this way, they should be able to gain at least some benefit. And if they do gain some benefit, we are also willing to wholeheartedly give all the effort we should, making sure that we approach every responsibility with genuine care and attention. Our aim is to meet expectations and fulfill our duties to. I hope that Dharma friends will make this aspiration in your own hearts, that in this lifetime I will do my best to listen, contemplate, and practice the teachings. Listening, contemplating, practicing teachings benefits beings, and it also benefits oneself. In short, for those who are practicing now, the main thing is to tame one's own mind stream and help sentient beings. In fact, the aspiration I made a couple of days ago was also this very intention. Whether in this lifetime or in all future lives, I will spend my time listening carefully, thoughtfully contemplating, and diligently practicing the teachings, gently taming my own mind stream, and then use the Dharma to benefit sentient beings. Aside from this, will I, for the time being, feel happy when I come across especially delicious food? Of course I will. I'm an ordinary human being. If there's an especially tasty and delicious dish being served today, I will most certainly, without a doubt, be extremely pleased and quite happy about it as well. If someone gives me a beautiful piece of clothing, will I be happy? Of course, I'll absolutely be happy. I'll put it on right away. Just like some Dharma friends now, after putting it on, they ask, do I look good? All ordinary people have this trait. But is this truly my ultimate and most important goal? Well, definitely not at all. It's just like children playing games. In fact, many of the various dramatic performances and plays that we perform on stage, after a few decades have passed, eventually they all turn out to be fake. Right now, whether it's about money, financial matters, or even social standing and recognition in the world, in our lives today, or being especially attached to many things in particular. But after a few decades, when you eventually look back on your life and reflect on everything, it's all fake. There's really nothing substantial. Therefore, fellow practitioners who are present here today, it is important for each of you to take a moment to reflect and set a clear personal goal for your own cultivation. If you have no goal and spend every day just eating, drinking, and having fun, and do not care about anything else at all, that's really just not right. We see some animals, and indeed these animals are very pitiful. Apart from eating and sleeping, they have no other goals. But as humans, we shouldn't be like that in our actions and in our words. So I hope that in your preliminary practices, everyone must, because we require daily practice on a regular basis each and every day. Although it might be a bit cold right now at the moment. The weather isn't really that cold, is it? What's the temperature now? Is it below minus 20 degrees? About that, right? It's more than minus 20 degrees, not considered cold. For example, when our precious guru was studying in Sikh in the past, at that particular time, if I remember correctly, we actually once went to Sikh as well. It was summer then, but the weather there was especially cold. It felt extremely piercing. Even at the institute, I didn't feel it was that intense. And even if I did, it was just as I mentioned to you earlier. When we first started studying at the institute, the conditions back then and the conditions you have now for listening to the Dharma are really very different. Every single morning at around 7 or 8 o'clock, I still remember back then I would often spend time tutoring them in my peaceful little courtyard. And during the tutoring, each Dharma friend would just sit on the ground. The ground was completely frozen. And every Dharma friend was wearing very thin clothes. I could see they were very thin. It was called my courtyard, but there wasn't much to it. It was just a relatively flat and rather unremarkable area. There really wasn't anything particularly notable or special about it. On this spot, we would study all the way until around 10 o'clock. Around 10 o'clock, the sun would slowly come out. Then we would continue with the second and third classes as we normally would. And the whole morning would go on like this, teaching until noon. At lunchtime, we would get up very early in the morning, usually at around 5 or sometimes 6 o'clock, when the sky was still dim and the world. Each morning, after we woke up and got out of bed, we would carefully prepare tea by boiling water on the stove, waiting for it to reach just. In the quiet of the early morning, we would usually eat just a little bit of sampa ourselves. The thermos would be filled to the brim. By noon, we would eat a bit of sampa and drink half of the tea. We never made a fire again. We simply abandoned it there, the fire left behind. Because in the afternoon, basically approximately around 1 or 2 o'clock, maybe just a little after that, every single day, without fail, the precious guru would give teachings to his students. It was like this for many, many years. Sometimes when I think back on it now, I really feel an emptiness inside. Even though we listened to the teachings for years, sometimes I feel that the life we had back then, just felt different. Once something is lost in this world, there's absolutely no possible way to ever recover it or bring it back in the afternoon. After the most revered, precious, and beloved guru finished teaching, we would go out into the courtyard every now and then to do group study sessions ourselves together. Sometimes after the guru finished the class, we would joke around with our Dharma friends and we would hang out together for a really long time, sometimes just enjoying each other's company. In the afternoon, which was a regular part of our daily schedule, we would typically find ourselves attending a greater number of classes as it was. In the evening, half the water in the bottle had already been drunk by noon, and in the evening, the remaining half of the drink, which had been set aside earlier, would then be slowly and carefully drunk. Back then, in our household, we usually boiled water just once a day, only once each day. This kind of life, in so many ways, really did strengthen our inner faith and confidence in the Dharma. Sometimes I feel like here nowadays, some Dharma friends are having a hard time in their daily lives. As we often find, hardship should actually be a truly great assistance for our daily practice. Otherwise, whether in the city or up here in the mountains, in any and every circumstance imaginable, when the conditions for practice are especially good, it might also, in certain situations, have some impact on us. But the way we are studying now is just an occasional opportunity. Whether things will always be like this in the future is hard to say. So right now, I hope that our precious guru has given us a lot of teachings, and in the future, we must take them very, very seriously. Indeed, absolutely without a doubt. We should truly develop a deep and genuine sense of joy and appreciation for the Dharma in our hearts, allowing it to inspire us. Sometimes, if the weather happens to get just a little bit colder, or if we start to feel even a little bit unwell, even for a moment, or if our family says this or that, there's really no need to pay too much attention to it. We should devote our whole mind to the Dharma, because only with a very pure and peaceful mind can we truly receive the Dharma. For example, if we wipe a mirror completely clean, and there is nothing at all, no dust or anything in its surface, then every image from outside can be reflected in it without missing a single detail. But if the mirror is already covered with all sorts of different things, objects and items, external can't be reflected. The Dharma itself is extremely profound, and this profundity we rely on our faith and respect, listening with great focus. And it's best if this kind of attentive time is maintained over the long term. Don't think, I've already studied for a year now. I've honestly really learned so much over this time, but I still can't do this and can't do that. Sometimes, if we happen to have very high and specific demands or expectations for what we choose to eat and wear, even the smallest details can matter. Then we become purely worldly people, absorbed in mundane affairs, not practitioners who are sincerely and wholeheartedly striving for true liberation. So everyone should be really very earnest. Just now, whether it was directly related to the Dharma or not, I mentioned it briefly in passing, just to note it. Everyone, even though it's a bit colder in winter, don't lose your faith. No matter what happens, your faith in the Dharma truly needs to be absolutely firm at all times, without wavering. If it's not firm, you won't gain the true meaning of the Dharma. Once you obtain this Dharma, you will never regress throughout your entire life. If you have not gained the true benefit of the Dharma, even if you have studied a lot, listened and contemplated a lot, but your mind has not truly been transformed, then perhaps, for the time being, you might consider living together peacefully and harmoniously with Buddhists. But after some time, when you encounter other external circumstances or objects, at that moment, you will truly and without any hesitation whatsoever immediately change. Next, I will now talk about and elaborate on the true meaning of the treatise, explaining its significance in greater detail. Today, we are discussing the third, complete endowment of roots. Among the 5 kinds of self-endowment, we finished talking about the second, complete endowment of environment. The third is complete endowment of roots. If any one of the 5 faculties is lacking, one cannot become a suitable vessel for monastic ordination and upholding the precepts. Moreover, since there is no chance to directly see or respectfully encounter revered objects like the Tathagata's body or images, or lacking the conditions to read, listen to, or contemplate the wish-fulfilling jewel of the scriptures, one is unable to truly become a worthy vessel for the Dharma. The third, complete endowment of roots, means that to study the Dharma, one must possess all the complete faculties. Mental faculty isn't discussed here. The main focus is on the other 5 faculties: eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, which are physical faculties. If any one of these absolutely essential faculties that are required is lacking, then in such a case one cannot become a monastic, or take the lay precepts, or truly accept the Dharma. None of these actions are actually permitted. Can you tell me why that is the case in this particular context? Generally speaking, anyone who's been ordained knows this. When ordaining, all mental and physical faculties must remain absolutely intact and unimpaired. Otherwise, one does not even have the right to join the monastic community at all. At that time, Shakyamuni Buddha also stipulated, for example, that people with disabilities, on one hand, followers of other paths and often some non-Buddhists, would have all sorts of harsh criticisms, negative remarks and slander, and would likely lose faith and confidence in them because of this, as a result of this situation. On the other hand, as it were, within Buddhism itself, it is understood that such individuals would not be able to fully receive and truly benefit from the teachings. So it is not that the Buddha does not have compassion on these deaf and dumb people. That is not the case. But if one wants to allow them to enter the monastic community, it's just like how things are in the world today. If you really want to take the civil service exam, for example, or become a teacher, the very first thing they typically check is whether or not your intelligence meets the standard. If your intelligence is sufficient, you have to pass the interview. If you pass, the interview must undergo a physical examination. The physical examination is also rather troublesome and inconvenient. Many of you have probably already experienced it yourselves. So, in many respects, if your eyesight is poor, or your hearing is impaired, or your sense of smell, whether your sense of smell is impaired or not. Nowadays, when it comes to examining the sense of smell and taste, the nose and tongue, the medical instruments used to assess these abilities are not as advanced as those for other senses, and moreover, illnesses affecting these senses are relatively rare among living beings. Therefore, nowadays, the main emphasis is particularly on your hearing and vision during the physical examination. Did you check whether the root of the nose is straight or not? Is there such an assessment? Probably not. So, if your faculty of sight is not intact, and you are completely blind, then you cannot look at Buddha statues, your teacher, or any Buddhist scriptures, commentaries, and treatises, not even for a moment, not at all. When you want to listen, reflect, or practice yourself, it is impossible. We see that some blind people are truly pitiful. They can't even take care of their own daily lives. Although there are now some schools for the blind, like massage schools, and the government is also trying various ways to help them find a way out, but it is still extremely, extremely difficult for them to take care of themselves. Sometimes when we see some blind people, we also think to ourselves, fortunately, I didn't end up like that. Otherwise, living like that for an entire lifetime would indeed, truly, really be very, very incredibly pitiful. They can't even tell whether it's day or night, nor can they see whether someone is in fact truly a loved one, or perhaps even an enemy to them. They can't see white, and they can't see red either. A life like that is truly and without a doubt, indeed, exceptionally, exceptionally difficult, truly difficult, let alone truly studying the Dharma itself. In any meaningful way, even something as simple as basic daily acts of taking care of oneself in the world on a daily basis is also really quite difficult. Similarly, if we now lack the faculty of hearing and become deaf, then whether it's listening to the teachings or pith instructions of any lineage master, any aspect of hearing and study and contemplation becomes impossible. No matter how the master teaches, it's of no use. Even the chanting of the Buddha's name can't be heard. Any truly meaningful sound is, quite simply, completely inaccessible to them. Even things like singing or speaking in the world all must be communicated through gestures. Some deaf people in certain situations are actually a bit more intelligent and can even read your lips, sometimes with surprising accuracy and skill. You know, if I remember correctly, there was actually a deaf person who used to live near us some time ago. When we were very young, there was an old wise lama nearby. We would deliberately tease him, talking about him nearby, making sounds like ah ah. We'd ask him, "How are you?" And he'd usually say, "I'm doing well." "I'm going to kill you," he would say. And then he'd still calmly, quietly respond, "Good." We were quite mischievous and naughty as children, sometimes saying things to him. Sometimes we wanted to see if he could react or not. We'd loudly say, "I'm going to kill you." And he'd reply, "Good, good, good." It was really pitiful. So we think if we were to be reborn as such a deaf person, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to do anything about it either. And there are those whose physical faculties are incomplete. Nowadays, there are a significant number of people, in fact, many individuals, who are either in a vegetative state or are paralyzed. Their bodies are completely and utterly bedridden and paralyzed. Such people can be said to have no physical sensation at all in some parts of their bodies. They remain numb and unresponsive all the time. There are people like this too. At this point, only their heart and nothing else is still beating, and they continue to keep on breathing. But whether it's their mind or their consciousness, there is simply no normal activity of any kind whatsoever. Back in the United States, around 2005, there was a truly remarkable person who caused a sensation in many countries at the time. There was a gentle, thoughtful woman named Terry who lived in a small, quiet town in the peaceful countryside. Her body had already entered a completely vegetative state, which meant that she was entirely unresponsive to her surroundings, and she could no longer feel any physical sensations or experience any awareness at all. There was a special tube for her. Nutritional food was carefully administered and delivered into her body in liquid form through this tube. At that time, she was approximately 41 years old. During that period of her life, her husband proceeded to file a lawsuit with the court because after such a long time, he thought it would be best for her to have an assisted death. He didn't want her to be constantly fed by others anymore, but her parents simply and absolutely refused to agree. He pulled out the feeding tube not just once, but twice. However, despite these repeated actions, her parents still wouldn't allow it, refusing to give their consent. Later, this issue was discussed by many internationally renowned figures. They debated whether it was better for her to die or to stay alive. Because living like this for 15 years, she had no sensation at all every day. Her whole body had no strong sensations, no feelings of pleasure or pain. There was nothing at all people like this. Her husband's view was that it would be best to let her die. But her parents firmly refused. After all, she is our child. As long as she lives, we will take it day by day. They kept constantly feeding her. But later, the court also agreed, and it seems even President Bush got involved. This issue dragged on for a long time, but eventually they agreed. In the end, following a difficult decision, the tube was removed, and she died within just 13 days. Normally, if a person doesn't receive food, they die within 7 days. But in her case, Tragically, she died after just 13 days. On issues. Later, some Christians and some religious people felt, no matter what, she was still, after all, a living being, and her life should be extended and preserved. However many years she would live in this world, it's worth it to keep her alive. But there were some non-religious individuals, particularly during that period, who genuinely felt that, let her, if possible, leave early, please. Otherwise, she would be a burden to the family, and there was no need for her to continue living like that. Actually, sometimes we really do think this way. We hope before we die we don't end up vegetative like that. Otherwise, whether it's for the family or for relatives and friends, it would be very difficult, and for oneself, it would be worse than death. If deep down you really do have certain feelings, like, Sai, what meaning or value is there in living like this? At that time in your heart, you might not even have the thought of truly developing faith in the three jewels. There are all kinds of different possible and potentially various causes for this kind of paralysis. Some may be congenital illnesses, some may be caused by sudden car accidents or by natural disasters, including but not limited to earthquakes. I heard that during the Wenchuan earthquake, some people also became disabled like this. Some people have absolutely no sensation at all in half of their body, while others have no sensation whatsoever in their entire lower body. A Tibetan person whom I personally know was also unfortunately in a car accident, as it happens, not too long ago. His entire lower body, apparently, his spine was damaged. He has absolutely no feeling in his lower body at all, but his upper body is exactly the same as a normal person's. And his reactions, thinking, and all other aspects are quite clear. So, thinking in this way, when we sometimes imagine such illnesses and pain happening to ourselves, it's truly pitiful. They used to be normal, able to go wherever they wanted. They could do anything freely and without restriction. Actually, sometimes, we really need to think this way. Nowadays, some people feel, I'm sick, so miserable. But actually, it's not miserable at all. As human beings, we have eyes, ears, and a physical body, which means we can go wherever it is that we truly want to go. If you really, truly lost your eyesight, then you perhaps truly come to understand what life was really like before you lost your vision back in those earlier days, when you still had your eyes, how happy it was living in a world of light. You might think this way. After your body becomes paralyzed, you might feel, oh, life was also very happy before I was paralyzed. You might perhaps think this way. So when it comes to touch, sight, and so on, there are actually a lot of unfortunate people in the world right now. But fortunately, we haven't become like that, at least as of now. And as I mentioned earlier, actually, there's also the sense of smell. Although in modern medicine, research and diagnosis in these areas are still not very advanced, but nowadays, more and more people in the world are suffering from illnesses related to this. For example, currently there is now a condition called ageusia, which is the loss of taste, which is the loss of the sense of taste, also known as the inability to taste. It is said that in the UK, there are a lot of people with this illness. There was a British university student who, after developing this condition, I have almost completely lost the ability to taste many different varieties of foods, including some of my favorites. For instance, braised pork ribs and mushy potatoes tasted exactly the same to him. He couldn't feel any difference at all. Even plain water and salt water, in every respect, were absolutely the same to him personally, without distinction. Can't taste. In the United States, there is a condition called taste disorder. With this illness, the senses of taste and smell become mixed together. For example, rice and other foods actually taste exactly the same. There is no noticeable difference at all. Milk and beer taste identical to him. He can't tell the difference. Originally, the sense of smell is much more varied and complex, while the sense of taste, on the other hand, is generally limited to things like sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy flavors. According to the Abhidharma Kosha, there are 6 types. So in many different situations or circumstances, as we have seen, these two senses, the olfactory organ and the taste organ, work together to perceive food. However, many young people are quite sensitive to flavors. Because their sense of smell and their sense of taste are both highly developed, they are able to notice and appreciate subtle. But generally, when people reach 60, especially those over 80, modern medicine believes that basically 3/4 of elderly people can hardly taste anything. Perhaps many elderly people here are like this as well. You know, when you were young, almost everything you tried or tasted always seemed so wonderful to you. But now, after you eat, you have no teeth. And your tongue, well, as long as you compare, as people from Sichuan like to say, as long as it's soft enough, that's all that matters. As long as it's not something too hard, it feels acceptable. So for many people now, if you really truly do reach the point where you absolutely can't taste anything at all, not even the faintest hint of flavor, not even a trace, for example, eating sugar and eating flour would feel exactly the same. If we were to get this kind of condition, it would be quite pitiful for us to experience. At that point, would it affect our study of the Dharma? It impacts, however, it may not be exactly the same as with the faculties of hearing and sight. If it were hearing or sight, you wouldn't be able to receive anything. But if the faculties of smell or taste are significantly impaired for any reason, it should be said that it would still affect your overall practice. You wouldn't be able to fully grasp or receive everything. So in many respects, when we consider the situation, we can perhaps take a moment to carefully reflect deeply on this. Right now, all my faculties are normal, although I'm not particularly smart when it comes to memorization and so on. I can remember many scriptures and treatises clearly and properly, just as they are. Even though I don't have such issues at this time, my mental and physical faculties are still all intact. Many monastics and many lay practitioners basically don't have any major problems like this either. I feel comforted by this myself, and I should be happy about it. This is the blessing of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. While I have such a body, I must diligently practice. You could say right now, on one hand, in this vast ocean of suffering, sentient beings are truly pitiable. But amidst misfortune, this is a great fortune. At present, all our conditions and circumstances are indeed extremely rare, unique, and perfect, truly perfect. We should sincerely encourage ourselves and aspire to genuinely practice the authentic Dharma. This is about the perfection of faculties. Next is the perfection of motivation, referring to what is called karmic confusion. This is generally understood to refer to being born from birth into castes such as hunters or prostitutes in the world, in different societies and in various communities. At a young age, one enters karmic confusion. Here, what is truly meant by karmic confusion is like the caste divisions in India's Brahmanism. If someone is born a butcher, then he will simply always remain one from childhood onward. All his descendants will also be engaged in this profession. If he is born into the caste of kings or merchants, it is the same. If one is truly, genuinely reborn into the caste of butchers or prostitutes, or into a caste considered very lowly in the world, then generation after generation, they will continue to engage in such extremely degrading work. This is called a true karmic inversion. Here, karmic inversion means that, in other words, one's karma has ultimately been turned upside down. Originally, you were supposed to, but there is nothing you can do. Your own karma has already been inverted. In the world today, in many places, sometimes we see, for example, at the market, every day there is slaughter of chickens, sheep, pigs, and cattle. Such butchers are indeed very pitiable. Some say that a butcher in Chongqing, a man named Li, was known as Quick Blade Shao Li. And in many historical books from the past, it was very often said that this person was truly remarkable and extraordinary. Why he remarkable? On a busy day, he could slaughter up to 200 chickens, and his movements were extremely fast. It seemed, apparently, that he earned a total of 2 yuan for each chicken he killed, which was the payment he received. So they were really very proud of themselves, truly proud. Even his own family members would often say, "We are extremely skilled, talented, and fully capable at making money and generating wealth." These people actually regard committing evil deeds as a kind of skill. It's truly pitiful. This includes many people working in slaughterhouses today who spend their entire lives killing cattle and sheep every single day. When I used to do animal releases, I also interviewed some butchers. They said, a few of us, just a small group gathered together in a single day, spending time with one another, could process 400 yaks at one plant when busy. From the early morning onward, they would relentlessly and continuously, without stopping, use their sharp knives to repeatedly hack away at the yak's necks over and over again. When we think about it, it truly is extremely cruel. Sometimes I reflect that though we are on the path of spiritual practice, we are not diligent, nor are we accomplished practitioners. But at least, and thankfully, we're not doing this kind of work. If we were in that line of work, Imagine how it would be. There was a time in my life when I became quite familiar with a certain monk, someone I once knew very well. He said, "Though I am a monk, I am lazy and ashamed. But what truly makes me happiest of all, more than anything else, is that I became a monk. If I hadn't become a monk, according to the customs of my hometown, I probably would have killed many yaks. Because in many Tibetan families, it's hard to avoid slaughtering yaks at home. Just like in some Han Chinese households, as part of their tradition, they kill chickens or fish. This happens quite frequently. Especially in families who don't believe in Buddhism, this often happens. But now many of us already understand how to make wise choices. We haven't been reborn into that kind of life, at least not in this world, or into particularly lowly forms of existence. This is called karmic inversion, but as it's explained here, actually, any actions of body, speech, or mind that go against the Dharma all fall under karmic inversion. This is quite difficult. If all our actions of body, speech, and mind that go against the Dharma are considered karmic inversion, is everyone here someone who has karmic inversion? Sometimes we also do things with our body, speech, or mind that go against the Dharma. But as I understand it, what is meant here is that one's body, speech, and mind are solely engaged. For example, like a prostitute or a butcher who have no virtuous deeds at all, whose minds are always thinking about, and every day are creating negative karma, whose speech contains not a single virtuous word, and whose bodily actions are the same. Such behavior is what is truly called karmic inversion. In fact, in the teachings of many masters, what is referred to as karmic inversion, for example, someone who was once a monastic but has returned to lay life and commits all kinds of negative actions. He used to be a good and pious layman, but later he started to learn other religions and stopped learning Buddhism, gradually and finally abandoning the practices they once engaged in. This is what is called a person with karmic inversion. Many masters tell their disciples, you absolutely must not become someone with karmic inversion. This means you should not return to lay life, and you should not listen to many teachings in front of me today, only to completely forget them after some time, and then casually go to improper places and commit all sorts of misdeeds. This is what is called karmic inversion. All of you here today, each and every one of you gathered together, thanks to the blessings of the Guru and the three jewels, right now you truly have the opportunity to receive the Dharma. This opportunity is most certainly my own and mine alone. It is a karmic reward for those good actions after causes and conditions have come together in this life. Now, as the well-known old saying goes, it is just like the saying, a blind person carefully grasping onto an elephant's tail. You must not give up on steadfastly and wholeheartedly practicing virtuous Dharma in the future. No matter where you go, you must, under any circumstances, never forget this at any time. As people used to say, no matter what position I am assigned to, I will never forget my so very dearly beloved mother. There is even a well-known song that goes like this. So whether we find ourselves in any group or even within a Dharma center, no matter where we go, our only choice should be that we would rather give up our precious lives, but never abandon the precious Dharma or the great task of benefiting sentient beings. This is a determination that everyone should truly make from the depths of their heart. Otherwise, every sentient being's karma is different. Although so many people are gathered here today in this place all together, in another 2 years, many may have gone their separate ways. Everything is ultimately impermanent. Some time ago, I looked at a photo of our precious Guru and a few of us taken at the Vajra seat in India. Many people in that photo have already left this world. There was Khenpo Chuba, who has also passed away. There was also someone called Lama Bano. He has also passed away. And there was an old Lama who has passed away. Looking at the photo, only a few people in it are still alive today. In just a few more years, it is quite possible that perhaps it will finally be our turn as well. We can only wait and see. This is impermanence. So there is nothing and no sentient being that is not swallowed by impermanence. So for all here, I think that if each and every one of us truly has this resolve deeply within each of our hearts, no matter where you go, your kindness and the light of your wisdom can shine forth at any time. When such radiant and brilliant light shines, the surrounding oppressive darkness, without a doubt, will surely be completely dispelled and thoroughly eradicated. This is the profound power and enduring, unwavering might of the Buddha Dharma. Therefore, we should sincerely aspire not to become in any way those individuals who are in fact easily confused or misled by the workings of karma. We should frequently pray before the Guru and the three jewels. Even if it is just offering a single lamp or lighting a stick of incense ourselves, prostrating and praying before the Buddha at such times, may all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas bless my mind stream at every moment. May I starting from this life and continuing life after life, may I never become someone with karmic confusion. In this way, I will practice virtuous Dharma and benefit sentient beings throughout all my lives. The power of making such aspirations in our hearts is extremely, extremely strong. If each person sincerely continues in this way deep within their heart, if the mind is tamed, then the body and speech are easy to control. The most crucial thing is our mind. If the mind often aspires and is gentle, then the body and speech, as its servants, will naturally follow well. As long as you consistently maintain and nurture a good relationship with the chairman, it is important to note that it becomes very easy to persuade the project managers of each department below. It also says here, especially, that although at the very beginning we have not been reborn into a lineage that is confused by karma, in the future it is very easy to become someone who is confused by karma. Therefore, we must do our utmost to ensure our mental continuum does not go against the true Dharma. When the precious Guru taught this in the past, he also placed special emphasis on it in particular. We all rely on blessings of the Guru and the three jewels, and our temporary virtuous intentions and abilities behaving properly and according to the Dharma. When listening to the teachings, we may appear even more dignified than Maitreya Bodhisattva, showing ourselves to be extremely hardworking, diligent, and attentive in every way. But the allure of external circumstances is strong. The strength of our minds is very weak. When various external conditions appear before you in your everyday life, for example, your own capacity to withstand them is extremely feeble. When all these causes and conditions come together, it's very possible that today, here and now, I'm wearing the dignified traditional robes of a monastic. But a few years from now, even my own livelihood could become a problem. I don't accept cause and effect. Becoming a particularly terrible layperson is hard to say. So in this world, as you can see, sometimes a good person can turn bad very quickly, and a bad person can also become good very quickly. Therefore, it is very possible that in the future we could all become, for example, a monastic who is extremely diligent, but then turns into a butcher or a prostitute. Could this happen? It's quite challenging for anyone to say. If we do not pray sincerely, if we do not make strong aspirations, then it's hard to say what will happen. So in the future, we must never become someone whose karma is completely reversed. In order to avoid becoming like that, on the one hand, as I have already mentioned earlier here, you should make sure not to distance yourself from the community of practitioners. This is a good way to maintain yourself, as it creates an environment fostering shame and restraint. For example, if you are a monastic and you often stay in the monastery, for your own benefit, please do not leave the monastic community. That upholds pure discipline and proper conduct. If a monastic spends too much time alone or frequently and very often leaves the monastic community, actually, then gradually, in the end, it is very easy to simply become a layperson yourself. For lay Buddhist communities, it is best to be with like-minded lay practitioners, those who share the same aspirations, study, contemplate, practice, release animals, listen, reflect, and cultivate together. Try your best not to leave such a community. Otherwise, it will be like searching for a needle in the ocean one may save you. Because society is extremely chaotic and unpredictable nowadays, all across the world, you could say that every day and night, people are busy with what? Worldly trivialities. Aside from that, those who genuinely seek liberation are extremely few and far between. They are rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horn. Therefore, first and foremost, we should do our best not to leave a very pure practice community, because remaining in such an environment is essential for supporting our spiritual growth and maintaining our dedication to pure practice. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, we should frequently pray to the Guru and the three jewels. Next, let's take a brief moment to talk about the perfection of faith. The perfection of faith is specifically as follows. If you do not develop faith in the objects that truly deserve your trust, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, then no matter what otherworldly beings, powerful and ancient gods, mighty dragons, or heterodox sects, no matter how truly and sincerely you offer up your devotion and faith to them, with all your heart, they still cannot save you from the suffering of samsara and the lower realms. This is very important. In fact, it is especially significant and should not be overlooked. The objects in which we should place our faith are the Guru and the three jewels. The Guru and the three jewels are the proper objects of our faith. If we do not develop faith in them as individuals, then having faith in non-Buddhist paths is in essence ultimately quite meaningless and without any real significance. The true object of faith is the three jewels, namely the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, who possess unsurpassed qualities. Having faith in them is indeed truly and absolutely, without a doubt, very, very important, I clearly remember in the past, back in those days, when the precious Guru made the journey to Malaysia, there was a Karma center called Malacca. At that time, the precious Guru gave them some very profound teachings. He spoke about three main points, specifically as I can clearly recall. For those who study and practice the Dharma with sincere dedication and mindfulness, one must possess faith, compassion, and wisdom. If you lack faith, you cannot enter into the Dharma. There are simply so many people in the world, but many of them, for a variety of personal reasons, do not truly believe in or sincerely turn toward the Dharma. If you lack wisdom, then out in the world, especially in this era of rapid technological advancement, there is a dazzling array of complex and confusing knowledge. And without wisdom, you will not know what to accept or reject. So wisdom is essential. If you lack compassion, then we should have deep, heartfelt compassion for all the countless, innumerable sentient living beings in the world, all of whom share this vast world with us. If you do not have this kind of mindset, then it is simply impossible for you to join the ranks of the Mahayana. So through these three important aspects, we can, in particular, communicate with the believers who are predestined to meet us. I gave exceptional instructions. Later, when I was alone, I also reflected on this. Indeed, the masters who have experience and realization in the Dharma, on the surface, it may seem simple that practitioners need these three qualities. But in reality, if these three qualities are indeed lacking, it is truly quite difficult to be a genuine practitioner or a true student of the Dharma. There are considerable obstacles. Therefore, as the renowned and highly respected teacher, the Venerable Mipham Rinpoche once said, faith is the root of the Dharma. Faith increases the accumulation of merit. Faith is the very foundation of the Dharma, and without faith, progress is not possible. And through faith, one can increase one's stores of merit and virtue. Only with genuine faith does one truly have the opportunity to ultimately achieve enlightenment. Without faith, it is indeed very difficult for most sentient beings, because especially in today's modern world, in our current society, as we can see, many intellectuals and highly educated people, they devote themselves to diligent study every single day, truly trying to research Buddhism. But in the end, what is the conclusion they reach from studying Buddhism? It doesn't hold much significance for their own mind streams or for others. I remember there is a line like this in the Avatamsaka Sutra as well. For sentient beings whose faith is rather slight, it is in fact especially difficult to fully understand enlightenment. Everyone should really remember this line. For sentient beings with little faith, it's hard understanding enlightenment. Those sentient beings who lack faith or whose faith is extremely weak, on the surface, they may seem very intelligent and rack their brains, working diligently day and night, studying tirelessly. But in reality, what profound understanding of Buddhism do they ultimately gain? It's hard to say. If one has faith, relying on their own faith and diligence through their unwavering commitment and steadfast belief, they can gain many benefits within their own mind stream. Sometimes among us lay practitioners, monastics with strong faith, are able to resolve what could be called the most important matter of their lives in a very short time. Nowadays, people in the world think, for example, some elderly people, our sons and daughters at home, they wonder if their children resolve life's most important matter. Isn't the most important matter liberation? But in the end, that's not it. They're referring to something else. So we still need to truly recognize how rare it is to encounter such Dharma, and we must have faith. If you want to have faith, the best way is to first understand its merits. If you don't know its merits, then in some ways your faith might simply be superficial, at least on the surface. Therefore, we should understand that no matter how prosperous non-Buddhist paths become, for example, in Taoism, they have their own distinctive teachings, and others have deities, the 8 classes of heavenly dragons, and methods of offering. But these heavenly deities themselves are, in fact, still trapped in the cycle of samsara, which, as you may know, is the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, and have not yet transcended the sea of suffering. How could they possibly help solve our problems, honestly? Absolutely not. If we want to resolve birth and death, samsara, no other religion in the world can truly, absolutely offer that. They may practice virtue and do good things. Such actions and views do exist. But if we truly want to transcend samsara and successfully attain liberation in this very lifetime, such a wondrous remedy exists only within the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. Therefore, we should have unwavering and devout faith in the Dharma and the realized teachings. Only by experiencing the Tathagata's teachings and realized Dharma and recognizing their well-founded and logical characteristics and fully appreciating them can one gain true understanding and faith. Such a person is indeed the truly and completely faultless vessel for the Dharma. So we should, from many different perspectives, develop
a very firm and stable faith in the Tathagata's teachings and realize Dharma. Only in this way can one truly become a vessel for the Dharma. Among the 5 kinds of self-completion, I have reflected repeatedly that for many people encountering the Buddha Dharma, especially truly having faith in Buddhism, is indeed truly and exceptionally rare and very precious. The great master Shantideva, a renowned Buddhist teacher, also said the following: just as encountering the Buddha's appearance in the world, being born human, and having faith in the Dharma are all extremely rare and precious, when will such an opportunity come again? What this means is that now we have already encountered the Buddha Dharma and have developed faith in it and are even able to practice virtuous deeds. Such happiness, such a truly wonderful and remarkable opportunity is something that is exceptionally rare to be found among people. Will we be able to obtain it again and again in the future? Honestly, at this moment in time, it's truly quite hard to say for sure. On the surface, many Dharma friends among us may have come to believe in the Dharma due to a chance encounter, but in fact that's not the case. Many people think it's just a matter of chance, but I do not agree with that. It should be said that we have performed countless virtuous deeds so we can study the Buddha Dharma in this life. But now we must seize this opportunity. We need to develop an extraordinary faith in the Buddha's teachings and the true Dharma. Moreover, this faith should be as steadfast as a great mountain. We ourselves must practice such virtuous conduct and then do our utmost, wholeheartedly and sincerely, to genuinely help all sentient beings to fully understand as well. In short, we should practice virtuous deeds ourselves and also encourage sentient beings to do the same. This approach is not only the responsibility of monastics like us, but lay Buddhist practitioners should also make sure to put it into actual practice as well. The Venerable Long Shenpa also said, practice as steadfast as a mountain, such sages are the supreme banner. Whether layperson or monastic, this is the precious human body. Whether you are a layperson or someone who has taken ordination, simply having a human body is regarded as something extremely rare and valuable, much like possessing a precious jewel. This comparison, I think that everyone must truly remember and always cherish these important words. What does this mean? It means that we should thoughtfully practice meaningful actions that genuinely benefit both ourselves and others. Such practice is not about just generating bodhicitta and helping others diligently today, and then after a couple of days starting to write a resignation letter, immediately losing confidence or not practicing or being unable to give rise to motivation. Such a person is not like a mountain king. This is more like a water wheel or a mountain flag. Just like a colorful prayer flag, carefully planted high on a rugged mountain, fluttering gently and constantly with the swirling wind. It's not like that. Someone who is like the mountain king, such a person is not only, even though on the surface they don't wear the attire of a sage or a monk's robe, even if they are, as one might say, a layperson, as long as they have the intention in their heart to practice diligently and to help others, if someone possesses this kind of mind, then whether you are a layperson or a monastic, in reality, such a person has already attained the precious human body. Here we are talking about the human body endowed with leisure and opportunity. Only with the precious human body is it truly correct. Therefore, such a human existence is indeed very difficult to obtain. That is precisely why, when we carefully study and reflect upon the profound teachings of the Dharma in our daily lives, it is extremely important to tame our own minds and to help others. At the same time, we must truly develop an unwavering and sincere faith in the teachings of the Tathagata. Unwavering faith does not mean simply thinking Buddhism is wonderful, so I'll just follow along and study it. It's really not like that. Each of you should reflect. After studying for so many years, for example, imagine a situation where someone who does not follow the Buddhist faith, perhaps a person from another religious or philosophical background, confidently, and then a Buddhist says, my Buddhism is so incredibly wonderful, so truly amazing and meaningful to me. If that non-Buddhist is especially eloquent, would your mind be swayed? Oh, maybe the Danhuang sect really is great, after all. Maybe Taoism is really good. Maybe I should give up studying Buddhism and follow them instead. This means that you really don't have a truly firm opinion in your heart. You're still somewhat undecided. If you truly and sincerely have a deeply and firmly rooted conviction in your heart, then even if many thousands upon thousands of people from all over the world come here to actively promote their own sects, your mind will absolutely not be shaken. Therefore, it is also said in the praises of the Buddha, I do not simply or blindly praise the Buddha's side just because I uphold and follow Buddhism, nor do I harbor any resentment or ill will toward the Danhuang sect and others. Whoever possesses words of true reasoning and understanding, I recognize them as my teacher. I think that for each of us, if we truly It is not merely because the Buddha has a good relationship with me that I should therefore respect the Buddha and dislike the Danhuang sect and non-Buddhists because they aren't on good terms with me and hate them. We should not make choices from such a self-centered perspective of attachment and aversion. Not like this. I should know who truly possesses the ultimate and conventional truths about the universe and human life, who can fully articulate them, and who, in this world, is truly genuine. Then I take refuge in them. Through my own wisdom and careful, thorough, and extensive analysis of many theories, I realize, among the countless and innumerable, diverse and ever-expanding fields of knowledge, and the many devoted and dedicated teachers in the world, my only true refuge in this world is the Buddha. And why is this? Because he expounded the truth of the world. If I trust him alone, this life, future lives, all lifetimes, I will never be deceived. And there will never be anything to mislead me, so I feel very reassured now. It's just like someone who is out in the world looking for work and realizing that in order to have a job and earn a living, they need to find, you search everywhere, and in the end, you find this person is truly 100% a good person. Then you feel at ease, and you won't, will I be here for a while, for some time, and deceive me? You won't think like that. So, through my own experience and the teachings of my teachers, I have already found that the Buddha is truly the best in the world, you could say. This kind of confidence is a faith that is absolutely deep in my very bones. It's not just on the surface. If it were only on the surface, you could wipe something on today and it would be gone right away. It could very easily, quite simply, be wiped off completely, without any delay at all. But what is at its core in your very bones will never truly change. So whether it's about the rarity of human life or faith in the Buddha, and only when you truly have this kind of faith, can you truly be considered a real Buddhist and truly a flawless and perfect vessel for the Dharma. Therefore, among the 5 self-sufficiencies, faith is the foundation. With faith, everything else becomes easy. Without faith, as you may find, everything else, it's like trying to enter a house when the door hasn't been open for quite some time. Even if you open it up and look inside, you simply find that you can't enjoy any of the things that are there. No matter what is present, you are unable to. So each and every one should work on increasing their own faith. When you encounter such Dharma, you should give rise to a sense of joy. Class ends soon. Everyone should go home and dance a happy, joyful dance when they get the chance. At the end of the day, all right, we'll stop here.
Om